Good afternoon. I'm Zhuyi Zhang, and alongside Yumeng Lei, we are pleased to present a critical analysis of the IELTS academic writing test with a focus on Chinese university students preparing to study abroad. Our presentation is divided into 5 parts. First, an overview of the target group and the assessment. Second, the 4 key assessment principles. Third, a critical evaluation of the strengths and weaknesses of the test. And fourth, future directions and recommendations. And finally, conclusion and implications. To begin, in today's context of rapid social development and increasing international exchange, more and more Chinese students are choosing to study overseas. Our focus is on university students, typically aged 18 to 23, who has been educated mainly in Chinese and have relatively limited exposure to English. For them, IELTS is the primary gateway to higher education in countries such as the UK and Australia, with most aiming for a band score between 6.5 and 7. The IELTS exam is widely recognized as a benchmark for evaluating English proficiency in academic, professional, and social contexts. Today, we will focus on the academic writing module, which contains 2 tasks and uses a 10-band scoring system. Each task is assessed based on 4 criteria, but this raises an important question. Does the IELTS writing test truly achieve the objectives it is intended to assess? We will examine the test using 4 key principles of the assessment.
So I will give a quick overview of the 4 key assessment principles of essay writing. This will set a stage for our later critical in the Chinese context. First, it validates Task 1 and Task 2 measure common academic genres, and the rubric covers key aspects of writing, but as Green points out, no test is perfectly valid. In fact, IELTS can only partly predict how students will write at university. Second is reliability. IELTS reduces variations through double marking and clear rubrics. Still, outcomes can be affected by examiner subjectivity or text day anxiety. Third is practicality. The 1-hour limit makes the test manageable but stressful. On top of that, high fees, unequal access to test centers, and a heavy teacher workload also create challenges. And finally, watchback. IELTS can encourage logical thinking and teacher professionalization, but it also leads to negative practice like template drills and exam-oriented writing. IELTS writing does reflect these 4 principles, but each have its limits. And with this background in mind, let's look more close at how these issues play out in the Chinese context.
Let us start with validity. As Green mentions us, validity is not an absolute quality of the test, but depends on how scores are interpreted and used. On the positive side, IELTS writing does reflect some common academic requirements, such as report and essay writing. For Chinese students, it also fills a gap, since their most English education often emphasizes exam skills rather than systematic training in academic writing. In this sense, the test demonstrates reasonable construct validate, and indeed, many high-score students adopt well and academic study overseas. However, challenges remain. A quick glance at Chinese social media shows the popularity of so-called 6.5 and 7 templates, which receive thousands of likes. This reliance on memorization means that some students achieve high score without developing real writing skills, a phenomenon often described as high score but low ability. In addition, as researchers point out, the test topics can sometimes be either overly general or specific, creating difficulties for test takers. The test also excludes important academic genres such as mails or lab reports, limiting its authenticity. Together, these issues weaken both construct and content validity and reduce the predictive power of IELTS writing. It does not always capture how students will actually perform in academic contests, especially within China's exam-oriented culture. Now, let us turn to reliability. Again, reliability must be understood in social contexts. On the positive side, the inclusion of two writing tasks reduces the impact of a single poor performance. Chinese test takers are also familiar with the fixed format, which enhances score stability. Strict administrative procedure further support fairness. Yet, several problems remain. The high-stake nature of the test causes anxiety, which affects performance. Heavily reliance on templates produce essays that may appear fluent but lack originality. Task 2, with the heavier weighing, dominates the score, leading to an incomplete picture of a student's writing ability. Examiner subjectivity differences in historical traditions and work task instructions can all undermine consistency. Furthermore, the narrow focus on argumentative essay does not prepare students for the full range of writing they will meet abroad. In other words, reliability in score does not necessarily translate into reliability in predicting academic success.
Now, practicality is not just about test time. In China, the real issue is unequal resources, which occurs fairness concerns. We can see this through a six-level pyramid, and the cost level, high-out fields, and pre-classes exclude many families. And the student level, 1 hour for 2 tasks pushes learners toward template instead of authentic writing. And the teacher level, heavy marking and extreme focused teaching build expertise but also narrow learning. And the institutional level, test centers cluster in big cities, limiting rural accesses. And the developer level, reforms like modular retakes and diagnostic feedback could improve fairness. Finally, at the society level, IELTS shifts who can study abroad, affecting mobility. As grown worse, assignment systems should not only continue if their benefits clear outweigh the cost. For IELTS in China, practicality must be judged on this balance, whether it reduces inequality and creates fairer opportunity. So beyond design and administration, we must ask, how does the test shape teaching and learning? So let's move to part 3, watchback and its implication in China. First, in general, Group reminds us that good assignment should bring beneficial consequences. On the positive, it promotes logical thinking, motivates learners, and supports teaching development. But negative are clear. Many students rely on templates and rote learning. The test ignores important genre like lab reports, as we said before. The text anxiety is widespread, so IELTS does shape learning, but not always in the ways that building real competence. Second, global versus Chinese context. Globally, templates and narrow genres are viewed as harmful, but in China's exam-oriented culture, they may be seen as efficient tools to pass IELTS and reach the goal of study abroad. Similarly, exam pressure will often seen as damaging, but in China, it accepted as a necessary cost of success. Teacher professionalization is a positive in both contexts. Finally, the key question, does IELTS writing achieve its objectives? Green said, the real goal is beneficial consequences. For Chinese students, IELTS should not just measure performance, but also help them build authentic skills and fair opportunities. IELTS writing does not only measure ability, it actively shapes what teachers teach and how students learn. This shows why future improvements must balance performance with authentic academic growth.
So what can be done to promote more beneficial consequence? To improve validity, which links to authenticity, we need to reduce dependence on templates and instead promote scaffolded learning, helping students gradually developing their skills through practice, not shortcuts. Introducing semi-open and contextualized tasks would encourage more flexible language use. Assessments should also reward originality and critical thinking rather than formulaic structure. Finally, incorporating a wider variety of academic genres, such as summarizes, reflections, and integrated reading to writing tasks, would better reflect real university demands. To enhance reliability that connects to fairness, we should offer better psychological and strategy support through mock exams and diversified policies. Keeping conditions consistent helps stabilize results. Assessments should focus more on language use than on rigid task fulfillment. Tasks must be worded clearly and relate closer to students' experiences, using familiar examples from Chinese context or topics connected to global issues and real life. These steps can lead to fairer and more trustworthy outcomes.
According to Green, criticality means balancing the resources required by an assignment with the resources that are actually available. In China, this balance often breaks down, so multi-level solutions are needed. And the cost level, scholarship, subsidies, and module retakes could ease this burden. As Green notes, a test demanding more resources than learner can provide will not be sustainable. At the institutional level, expanding coverage and offering secure online writing assignments would make access more equal. At the society level, governments and universities could reduce fees, provide open access material, and recognize alternative assignments. By reducing costs, widening access, and promoting equality, IELTS can move closer to sustainability, leading to beneficial consequences, broader and more equal participants. And the watchback gave us several clear directions for improvement. At the teaching level, teachers can diversify working tasks and use portfolios or peer assignments. This moves students away from templates and building process skill. At the student level, low-stakes practice help reduce anxiety and support authentic writing. Repeated task-taking, by contrast, often increasing stress without real gains. At the feedback level, rubrics should provide clear, detailed comments on text response, coherence, vocabulary, and grammar. Feedback must go beyond grades to show how to improve. At the official level, else developers could broaden genres and other diagnostic score reports, and allow single modules retakes to ease financial and physiological pressure. So, watchback shows that improvements at offer level can make IELTS writing not just a field test, but also a tool for real learning, leading to long-term benefits for both students and teachers. In conclusion, IELTS writing acts as the shareholder indicators of English ability, but shows limited predictivity validity for Chinese students' future academic writing, and the test demonstrates partial validate, reliable, and predictability, but is strongly shaped by China's exam-oriented culture. Finally, as Green reminds us, beneficial consequences are the ultimate goals. IELTS writing should not only measure performance, but also foster authentic skills and fair opportunities. That's all for today. Thank you.